We're live. Hello, everybody. I'm Technovoid. Dancing to this kick-ass music. I love this song. A lot of games. I play a lot. Hello, Stormy. I'm blurry. I play a lot of games where I'm streaming. Before I start streaming, I'm sitting on the title screen working on stuff with the OBS and the Twitch and everything, and it's like I gotta mute the game sometimes just because like the title music isn't always very good. But this game, I could just sit on this screen for hours. This song is a fucking bop. Anyways, let's get straight into it. We're gonna talk about the adventure of the clouded Kokoro. Kokoro means heart in Japanese, I think. So something about a clouded heart, probably. Whoa, the adventure. Tell me about it, Sholmes.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed. Indeed, that there may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup of herbal tea, leading him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back.
Oh no! Not a knife to her back.
Glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
February 19th, 9:47 a.m. It's the British Supreme Court. We're gonna meet that Lord Chief Justice again. I don't remember what his name was. It was like Neil Armstrong or some shit. Anyways, I'll be right back. I'm gonna turn off the AC because I don't know how noisy that's being. Oh, don't make my Pro Controller fall down. Need that one. Finally, a female victim. Gender equality. That doesn't necessarily mean the victim will be a female in this. That was just Sholmes' little introduction. We'll just have to wait and see. Oh, I can't believe Susato's dead and she's a ghost talking to us now. Did you sleep well last night, Mr. Naruhodo? Nah, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious, I felt like we were staying in a palace. And with all the gaslights twinkling, it was brighter than day even in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Buria, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except when I learnt that we owed £3 for the rooms, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Oops, sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. London is a scary place. Ah, good morning to you at this early hour. Oh, yes, well. Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on our outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's gotta be, right? Or it's a bait and switch, and he just looks evil, but he's not. But I mean, he feels very Damon Gant. Susato-san is amazing. She doesn't bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart.
Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices. You even revived one that literally no one has ever used effectively before and used it super effectively like twice or some shit.
Oh yeah, it was very eye-opening, thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty in the end. It's Technovoid stream time. It's not actually Technovoid stream time. I think Technovoid stream time is like, what, 7:30, 8 p.m. Eastern? We're actually starting earlier, because I want to get through the whole case, because I'm excited, but I assume this is going to be a long case, because we're going to have a courtroom, and we're going to have an investigation. For the first time, we're going to have both. Only 4 cases into the 5-case game. Luckily, the second game is like a direct sequel, so there should definitely be... It's always... Oh, fuck, you guys have been watching my whole life? Oh, no. That's not good. That ain't good. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yes, I've already been apprised of events. You constructed a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed.
Oh.
No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer with my great JPEG birds. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern island.
Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now.
Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem.
Another case already?
Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I?
Nah, cool, just send me to go do your chores, it's fine, I don't care. It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it.
What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for?
The truth.
The culpability of the defendant has not at the present time been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not...
The jury will...
I don't remember what I did.
The jury will not be required to proffer judgment.
Well, Lord Van Zeeks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fellow,
I couldn't have asked for a better defense.
What? This is the kind of laugh an evil man does. It's true, yeah. I just can't. I want to make it fit, though. I feel like sort of like dumb old man is a good thing, but I have several of those. Is the thing. I just can't help. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. I gotta get my voices straight because this weekend I'm auditioning for the Hollow Knight vocalized mod. Hopefully, I'm really hoping I get some roles for that, or at least a role. Mr. Naruhodo! It's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. Thanks, Stormy. And then the trial ended.
Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer.
Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart?
Magnus McGilded passed away immediately following the trial.
Oh, the grubs don't have lines. But also, he was in the flaming carriage? No! What? Mr. McGilded is dead? Oh, damn, even the fucking JPEG birds are impressed. Or surprised. Damn.
I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk.
Thank you, Pick. Thank you so much. Tell me about McGilded's death. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead?
After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom.
What if you wait 19 minutes and 41 seconds, then he leaves and he doesn't tell you what happened? I do like the idea that you're not frozen in time for those menus, that time is just passing. There's like, I have 19 minutes to speak with you, and you're just like, he's like, are we going to fucking talk or what? Yes, of course, that was the scene of the crime with which Mr. McGilded had become accused of.
Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames.
No. How could such a thing have happened?
That is being investigated as we speak, but already... The police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of Mr. McGilded.
That's awful.
The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere.
That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. And how could that have happened?
That is also being investigated as we speak.
What good would that do? What good would faking he's one of the most powerful men. He's one of the most powerful men in the country. And he just got acquitted. I think maybe he was going in there to, like, move some evidence or something. Well, off the radar, I guess, yeah. Good points, good points. Although, we heard someone banging in there. So it definitely had to be an alive person. Because we saw the cutscene where someone was, like, banging and trying to get out. So we at least know for a fact that whoever was in there was alive and trying to get out. So it wasn't just, like, a body double or something. So, wow, already the case thickens. Immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. I wonder if someone else was trying to kill him there. Do they have his dental records? Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection?
They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. An inspection of the omnibus. Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage.
But then who was Mr. McGilded talking about?
Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police.
Poor Mr. McGilded. He was pretty rich. Not too poor.
So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... Wow! I really enjoyed the summation examination. The jury was a great addition. I love the jury already. Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Susato-san has such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. Stop reading my mind, Susato! Maya's a spirit medium, you're just a psychic.
The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can.
You can't believe there's a jury in a Phoenix Wright game? Remember at Apollo Justice where they made that the whole fucking point and then it didn't matter at all? Yeah, that was great. The most advanced in the world, is it?
It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair.
Simple? That was simple?
As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose.
The only Phoenix Wright game I haven't played, Cabello, is Spirit of Justice. I haven't gotten to that one, but the other ones I've played. Dual Destinies and Trials and Tribulations are my favorite. I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of Dual Destinies, but I think it's quite good. I really enjoy the final case in Dual Destinies. And of course, Trials and Tribulations is really awesome. I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that we managed to get a favorable verdict. Is something funny?
No, I'm just practicing my vocal cords. My apologies. However, the fact is that You did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much at least is an undeniable truth. Which is precisely why I've prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before.
What's going on? What was he gonna say before? Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me it's a murder and the trial starts in 10 minutes.
Don't worry, it's nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. In fact, this case is completely different.
Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? What if the blue isn't actually... He thinks he's talking to himself, but he's actually just has no filter, just saying it out loud. And that's why everyone can read his mind, because he's just muttering.
That is to say, no one has died. As yet.
That's alarming.
And the trial will not be today. There is plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise.
Until what? Until someone dies? You have a clock for that? So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was... Well, it's left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. No, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilda's trial.
Ah, yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. The defendant is actually guilty. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense.
Oh.
If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome.
The most terrible end awaits the defendant, even though no one's died?
Yes, that's right.
Here we go again.
Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There's now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until the court sits.
Last time he mentioned the 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time.
And one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There is something I should like to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
Yesterday you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds.
Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world works so he could change ours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And, there's another thing. Oh.
Another thing. Continue.
On the way here, on the steamship, he said something, to me. There's something very important that I have to do.
Something very important? And what exactly would that be?
He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he'd ever made it to the Great Britain.
You're out of time! Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion.
Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asagi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. It's just bro talk. It's just bro talk, you wouldn't understand.
I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details.
How long has he been there?
So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell.
There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we had better talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Motherfucker got fish and chips? Motherfucker got fish and chips. It's endlessly refilling fish and chips. That's amazing. This man has literally solved world hunger. Could we trouble you? Alright, we need a voice for this guy.
Ah, what do you think?
Lovely weather, isn't it?
What's the weather got to do with anything? Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. Some frippery about the weather doesn't get every English gent eaten out of your hands, you know.
But Susato-san told me it was foolproof.
I'm a busy man, a very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give the likes of you a talking to.
Oh, I'm ever so sorry.
Can you imagine what the other officers there will be saying? Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And all because of some bumpkins here who's on a job from a country I never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation of the guy going to tatters.
There's no need to rip us apart as well. I love this guy. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Sue. It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? Yo, fuck Maya. Susato-san is love. Susato-san is life. Susato's actually MVP.
It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London's winters don't see a lot of sunshine.
Unbelievable. How did she pull that off?
So, Lord Strongheart has asked me to fill you in on the case. The name is Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard.
Gregson! Inspector Gregson. What's the matter with Susato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Inspector Gregson. Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? You're acting like you know this man, Miss Susato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him very well, in fact. Very well. Yes, he features prominently in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Ranced magazine? That's right! Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful, friendly rivalry. Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible!
Well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time.
Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of the bad lot of all Scotland. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words. That's his highest praise? Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see.
That he is not, and thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now.
That's great, isn't it?
I have to admit that to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof.
Well, that's wonderful.
No, it is not! There's none more sinister than the man on the street. People always look at me now, they're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure.
Rumors? Are you quite sure?
He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head, stuff like that.
Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you?
Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying. But I know what folk are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. As sure as eggs is eggs.
I fucking love Gregson. You best. Oh, I vibe with this man. I get the feeling this detective can be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps the sunrise to fame does change people. Gumshoe 2. Oh my god, so good. So I want this guy, and fuck, I wish I remember his name. Hosanagi. I want Gregson and Hosanagi to have like a meetup and like a rivalry of like the two police chiefs. Oh my god. It'd be so good. And if it doesn't exist, gotta write a fan fiction about them. About them being boyfriends. Gotta happen. Maybe a three-way with Sholmes. Boom. Get on it. I'm sure it exists.
Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler.
Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right.
The young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in the hospital, unconscious.
That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack a poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Ryunosuke. You've angered her now!
Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest.
So there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit? Or perhaps a reliable witness to recognize the person in question?
Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one.
Sorry?
There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now.
Why ever not?
Simple. The prosecutors that been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Low Baron von Zeeks.
Well, we've beaten him once before. We'll be okay. No!
Sounds like you heard of him, then.
Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zeeks. Believed to be the harbinger of death itself. The Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Baron Von Zeeks, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilda told us about him before the trial, didn't he? When Von Zeeks stands for the prosecution,
When Van Zeke stands for the prosecution, they call the accused as sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned, except for the one that I did, when I died instead.
This Reaper of the Bailey nickname. I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty, is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty.
And what of it?
Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant.
Nah, you really don't have a clue, do you?
What do you mean?
What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead.
Ah,
Magnus McGilded came up cropping that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you?
I mean, well, we saved him in court. That's what counts. What are you saying? Like, literally, what?
Look, if Van Zeeks get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles, he works magic. Black magic.
What? Zeeks killed him?
I'd have a good long think about that if I were you.
Are we really supposed to believe that?
Right, well, I filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there. Also, I'm gonna go refill my chips.
It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place?
That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself.
You've branded him a criminal already?
He's as good as, shaking like a leaf in a cell he is. It'll give you a chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way.
Inmate 53, thank you. And you gotta get Hosonaga in there, Stormy. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think that's too much for you, there is no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine how he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. And I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try, so I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes! Let's go! I love Suzato-san so much. God, I never liked Maya, but I love Suzato-san. Alright, let's check out the prison. It's the 19th of February, local prison cell 9. So these are British prison cells. Oh, they're ghastly. It feels just like a dungeon. Yes, and having experienced in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these cone-stoled walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo, you're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in this cell here. But it's so dark at the back there, I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like.
Inmate 53, your legal representative is here to see you. Stop idling into the back of the cell and show your face at once.
Am I a cat as yet with no name? Calling me by a number, it's utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. I refuse to answer.
Mr. Naruhodo, what? What do you think is going on here? I have no idea, but I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That tirade of complaints was in Japanese. Oh ho! Excuse me, but who?
Shh! Quiet! They're all around. I know they are. They're watching, listening. Even now, I can sense it.
Right. So, could I ask you, who exactly—
There you are! You come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost!
A ghost? We mean you no harm, prisoner-san. Are you Japanese by any chance?
This is beyond my wildest dreams!
Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine. We were just a little surprised, that's all.
Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am in a fixing a foreign land!
So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was the most monumentally moving moment.
Who would have guessed that this new client Lord Strongheart assigned to us would turn out to be a fucking insane person?
What compassion my fellow countrymen show to dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student.
Noble, nurturing, never-failing Nippon!
A first-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here. I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example.
Yes, I can, I will. Shut, stay sullen and silent.
I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy. Does he? He seems off his rocker to me. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotaba.
I am a visiting student sent here by our government.
Notably, notoriously named Natsume. Susuke Natsume.
Hey, what up, bud? You doing okay in there? Sasuke Natsume-san? What an unusual name.
Call me Sasuke, please. I'm a poet, you see, a writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume.
A nom de plume? You mean an alias? That's right, Naruhodo-san.
No! Don't be so prosaic. It's much more refined than that.
And haiku? That really reminds me of home. Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent over by the government?
Yes, that's right. A year ago, I was told to go and study English. First, I had to suffer that misery, and now this!
It's beyond the pale!
Suffer that misery? Did you not want to study here?
No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course.
Oh.
But
just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it. No!
What do you mean?
If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That's my field. But no, they told me to study the English language.
Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable.
I see.
Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper.
Wise words are whitewashy.
You must be a man of great standing.
Oh yes, so I'm often told.
And often like to be told, it seems. So what'd you do? Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san?
I didn't do it! I didn't commit that atrocious murder!
Murder?
Oh, no, it's alright. The woman didn't actually die, did she?
But you were stabbed with a knife right before my eyes.
Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker?
I didn't see anyone.
What?
If I'd seen the person who did it...
Do you think I'd be locked up in here?
Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me?
Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse of London. It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient.
So Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital that we find out more about the case.
It was an accursed evening just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I've been at the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to the accursed lodgings.
Sure the bookshop wasn't accursed too?
As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out a soul silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed on the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet.
How terrible.
I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard.
Slight exaggeration there, perhaps.
I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings.
That's not good.
They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that.
Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours?
Don't be ridiculous! Do you think I know any of these fair-haired English? A young woman at that?
I'm different, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people.
I see. A young woman unknown to Soseki-san, and at the time it happened. Who else did you see nearby? Did anybody pass you?
Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one. Oh, great.
So the victim was unknown to you and there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? What conundrum? What do you mean, Suzato-san? What's the conundrum? Well, if what Soseki-san has told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He says that he didn't know the victim and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without having been seen.
I did!
But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit.
Ah, you! What did you just say?
Nothing, I didn't say anything. Oops, perhaps I thought that a little loudly. Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Soseki-san actually come to be arrested? Sorry? He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place?
Ryunosuke being a reverse psychic is hilarious. Everyone can just read his brain. It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck.
Accursed great detective? Could it be?
I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live. With his hearty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed, bushy-bodied, begone! May you be cursed until the end of your days, Hairlock Sholmes!
I knew it. Mr. Sholmes? Well, I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, that's for sure.
It was the morning after the nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some men suddenly burst in through the door. They started shouting at me. This is the police. Put the weapon down. Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating the weapon. Disgusting, dietary discrimination devils.
You clearly had a trying morning yesterday.
And it was in the middle of all the policemen grinning like a Cheshire cat. That Hairlock Sholmes!
Stormy, I don't think our client is okay. I don't think so, no. I would say no. It's actually just Hairlock Sholmes. He's English.
I've since found out that he's a famous name in detection here in London.
Yes, the great detective is really very well known.
And his overly sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He digs up the knife-wielding meat madman meat, this weak, stupid kitten of a man.
I wonder what great deduction process led him to his conclusion this time. Do you mean to say that Mr. Sholmes' deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable.
Oh, there's also the racism of me being Japanese and all. Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in.
Of course you were. That's only natural.
I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me in impossible English. Fingers forward, flim-flammery!
Well, we are in England. You can't really blame them for questioning you in English.
Good point, but my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. So I just kept repeating things like, yes, I do, and I'm fine. The next thing I knew, I was in medicals. Before I knew it, I was thrown in here.
Oh dear, I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I'm fine? He's not fine now.
Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire!
Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo, and when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough.
Oh, yes, alright, yes. They've really got me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you?
Well,
Why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me?
Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself on a study tour. A student. I have defended a case in the Old Bailey. Only the one, though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to be believing. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means. Oh, Naruhodo-san. I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm a sort of locum lawyer, I suppose.
But that armband, that's the defense of a defense lawyer from a great empire.
It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend.
A keepsake? I know exactly what they're saying about me.
Oh, who do you mean?
The lawyers, all the British defense lawyers, they won't defend me.
Goodness, why do you say that?
For the same reason as you noted before, when it happened. There was only the victim and myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit.
Must be very hard for you, Soseki-san.
Anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them. Somebody not to be trusted. I heard them openly laughing about me before, my ears shot without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, they said, and of course the foreigner did it. They even had the gall to say, the man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway.
That's awful.
They're wrong! I've studied more English than half of the policemen out there on the streets. I've traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. No one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through.
Soseki-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can, for the time being.
What do you mean?
We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it will give us a much better chance, I'm sure.
Oh yes, thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
We should be going then, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for. Alright. Bye. Going to Briar Road. So this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. That is their job, you know. But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, but I never dreamt I'd ever come this close. To a real Bobby's helmet. What? The helmet? Hee, of course. I have to try one on this day. I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your heady dream comes true. No, trying it on.
What's the Japanese delegation doing here?
Oh, Inspector Gregson.
This isn't on the tourist trails, I'm fairly sure you're aware.
Yes, of course. We're here to investigate.
So you've been to the holding cells then? What do you make of the criminal?
He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect.
We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. Doesn't bother me. Bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion.
The stone-cold air of objection. Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone cold air. That makes it worse somehow. Well, let's talk to you, Gregson. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about The Adventures of Hairlock Sholmes, I've been fascinated by the place.
The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am.
Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part, seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful?
Being on Bobby's outgoing, I can tell you.
Oh really?
First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Go around rousing all the laborers on his beat so they can get off to work.
What? He wakes people up?
Yup, the raps on the windows with a long pole. Did it myself go back a bit.
I had no idea.
The Bobby works for the people of town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance.
I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. 20 miles. That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. Or, like, you know, 20 miles too far.
And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps.
Oh my. And I suppose in between all those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well? And chase after criminals trying to evade the law.
I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We all do we do have men killing over from time to time, I admit.
I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do.
It happened around 5 in the evening 2 days ago, just there on that open bit of pavement. The victim, young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind.
Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in a hospital.
I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all.
Suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course.
Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want.
Really? Are you sure?
It's your policy to give lawyers defending suspects the opposite information to go on.
I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. You gratefully accept. The local map has been entered into the court record.
Anyway, far we note there were no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head scratcher, is it?
Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming to have not seen anyone else around, but let's take a look at this map real quick. Briar Road. Can we... No. Okay, it's just this. Okay. But just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else is present.
I'm sorry I have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure.
How?
Because, ma'am, the precise motive of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed.
It what?
We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less.
Ah.
It was a typical foggy London day. Your client obviously didn't see him.
There were witnesses now? Who are these witnesses, Inspector?
The fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London.
Oh, shit, we're gonna ruin his reputation? Damn.
He's a copper from Scotland Yard.
Ah. A policeman? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked?
Nothing peculiar about that, man. Part and parcel of being a Bobby. Catching them banging the act and all that.
Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions?
Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow.
Oh.
I have no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to.
That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. The policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector.
What?
The person who led you to the suspect, I hear that was Mr. Hairlock Sholmes.
What are you bringing him up for?
Was it something I said? The color is drained from his cheeks.
That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you defending him or not?
Well,
Makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer with his soul would touch that case of the barge pole.
because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean?
There's no way to save the man now, so waste your time trying. It is all a bit strange, though.
Sorry?
The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now.
Hi, Blinks. Hope you're doing well. Yes, we did hear something to that effect.
And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum, the master criminals, the violent ones.
Master criminals? Not visa criminals? The violent ones.
Yeah, some of those motherfuckers even use Discover, the sick bastards. He handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins.
But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely.
That's just my point, sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for what I want, for what of a better phrase.
It's not exactly a minor infraction, is it?
No, there's gotta be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest.
Really? What sort of reason, Inspector?
You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial.
Are we really gonna have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it?
Who did you hear that name from?
Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions.
Phil Farrell!
Ah!
The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere.
Oh.
I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case.
Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is of great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he?
Gibble gabble!
Ah.
Ever seen this before?
Oh, yes, that's Ryan's magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventure of Hairlock Sholmes appears.
Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called great detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misinvention to be included in any Hairlock Sholmes tale at all.
Well, I suppose there is an element of that.
We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals.
That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're gonna get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Hairlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Sholmes for all this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did.
which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again.
The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address even. So how...
It's Baker Street!
How do you know that?
It's in the stories, of course. 21B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world.
Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We'd better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets even more excited and unpredictable.
Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage.
So we're gonna have a reunion already. With the great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Alright, let's take a look around. What's up? That's one of those officers from Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons.
I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern.
Oh no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what was going on.
Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure it's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so prone to. It does you no favors at all.
Ugh. This patch of pavement must be where the incident occurred.
Yes, it's a very wide open space, isn't it?
That's true. I can't see anywhere an attacker could have been hiding.
Oi, what are you foreigners doing here?
Ah!
Oh, are we, just investigating the scene, officer?
Conspiring with that mustache fella from Japan, are ya?
Conspiring?
Come here to destroy evidence, have ya? Get out of here before I give you an iron. Go on.
He shoot us away like rats.
Yes, we should give him a wide berth, I think.
What a disappointing experience.
Snowman!
Hee hee, what a delightful snowman.
I didn't realize the English had a tradition of making snowmen as well. It looks a little creepy, though.
Oh, it has a scarf, look.
You'd need one if you were out in this freezing cold all the time. I wish I had one.
I'm afraid our budget is somewhat frozen at the moment, too. We certainly can't afford a scarf.
Surely the snowman here wouldn't miss his.
But the person who made the snowman certainly would.
Yes, I know, you're right. Anyway, even if I borrowed it, it wouldn't do much warm to my neck, would it? It's covered in snow.
Oh, it's a Scotland Yard carriage. They use vehicles like that to rush to crime scenes and cart away criminals.
You're very well informed, aren't you?
It's long been a dream of mine to ride in one of those through the streets of London.
Well, just pick up a stone and throw it through one of the windows then.
But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it, wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way, help me find a good stone.
No, I wasn't serious. Ooh. There are piles of snow on the pavement here and there, but the road itself is covered in carriage tracks.
It seems carriages often travel down Briar Road.
It soon disperses all this snow. I slipped over when I was walking down the pavement earlier. It seems like it would be far safer to walk on the road instead.
Oh, but you're rather small, Mr. Naruhodo, and dressed in all in black. I worry coachmen might not see you and you could be flattened by horses.
Well, thank you for the rather small concern. Oh, look at the windows of that building there.
Are you sure they're windows?
Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks.
Oh, you're right. I wonder why. Perhaps it's an empty property where nobody lives at the moment.
There's smoke coming from the chimneys, though.
Oh dear, everything still feels very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place.
No, that's not normal.
Oh, a British bicycle, look! Although the wheel is so misshapen, I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore.
Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling.
It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to allow them to ride as well.
The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that.
Goodness, do you dislike bicycles?
No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you'd ever tried walking on stilts and falling into a river, I know you'd agree with me. Sounds like you speak from experience, Naruhodo. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometime. You can sit behind me while I ride you around. That's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history. Well, time certainly seems to have taken the toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks in decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here. We must find some cheap lodgings ourselves as soon as possible. Yes, you're right. Cheap, but ideally with reasonable level floors. Is that everything? Okay. Alright. Let's go to Sholmes. Can we really visit, do you think? Oh, pinch me. I'm sure I must be dreaming. Movie time.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Here we are, the fabled place, Sholmes Suite. So this is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Stormy does mean autistic. Is it as described in the stories, Mr. Zato? Suzato-san? Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it! The romanticism! Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at the present. You just walked in? Excuse me, is anyone home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Oh, hello. You. Hello, is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Hello. Wait. Aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mrs. Otto, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came in this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on a case. The King of Bavaria? Bulgaria. The King of Bulgaria. He was here. King Wilhelm Gottschalk... Fuck. King Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund von Ormstein, of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment, and look over there. The tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Suzato-san recognizes her too. Ah, there you are. And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial of which my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilda's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you having to get straight to work when you're only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. It's tea supposed to look like that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. There's a more problematic answer to this, Stormy, that doesn't involve it being his kid. There's a much more problematic answer to this.
Hooray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck.
That's gender-twisted Watson. Hello, Larius. Nice to see you.
Did Mr. Sholmes tell you to tell us?
Tell us by any chance? It's not Watson. Cabello. I'm pretty sure the person who died in the first case, their name was Wilson. I think, not Watson. So it's actually.
Oh, you know Hurley, did you?
Hurley, Mr. Sholmes to you, Shirley.
Mr. Sholmes is a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea.
Hey, Post, thank you for the flex. Thank you.
I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas.
Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth did she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? Sholmes probably just told her.
And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley.
Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name!
What?
What's the matter?
No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson?
What's the matter with Suzato-san? Why is she flustered all of a sudden?
Yes, that's right. And what are your names?
Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan.
Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotaba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely, Susie and Runo. Got it.
Susie and Runo. There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start.
Yes, and so do I.
Yo, what up? Yo, Iris. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey.
Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh, no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming.
Though at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us.
Like this? Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you?
Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade.
Oh, Ginny, yes, she's a professional pickpocket.
So we found out.
It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that.
Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption?
Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions.
This girl's dangerous.
Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician.
Sorry, your technician?
Hurley, of course, silly.
Hurley?
Yes, Hairlock Sholmes. We live here together.
I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter.
Daughter? Not likely.
What?
I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate.
Your roommates?
They were roommates!
I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you?
Old enough!
10? She's 10! Well, what of your mother and father?
Oh no, they're not around.
Oh, I see. I wonder what their story is there.
Oh yes, there's something I must ask you.
Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of the Adventures of Hairlock Sholmes, and... Oh, you have a copy of Wright's magazine. Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness! Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but... It's a story! Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So, do you mean to say... Are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Wright's magazine? All written by me, yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Suzato-san's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true too. I am a doctor of medicine.
No, at 10 years old?
At 10 years old.
Well, that's quite incredible.
But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Yes. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling.
Oh.
Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow.
Yeah, a bit problematic. A little bit of issue, perhaps. Maybe just teeny tiny bit, just a little bit problematic, maybe.
Japan. Japan. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Suzato-san, she looks like her whole world is just falling apart. Oh, boy. About before.
Yes, what's on your mind, Runo? Do tell me.
How did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean?
Yes, oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted, although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin.
It's time for the Logic and Reasoning Spectacular with Iris Wilson. She did it! She did the thing!
Iris Wilson is proud to present her Logic and Reasoning Spectacular.
We're doing it!
First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Runo. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber.
But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that?
I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket.
Oh.
So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs.
The Reaper and the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you, earlier today? Ah! They used those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face.
so I concluded the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case.
I see.
But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling.
A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume.
Mr. Natsume. Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case.
She's even better than Sholmes is at this. She actually got everything right. Brilliant. No course or correction needed.
No wonder Sholmes is a moron. Iris absorbed all his intelligence. Every night, she, like, when he's sleeping, she, like, hooks up, like, a needle into his brain and a needle into her brain and just...
There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there is to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions.
I'm impressed. Good job.
Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct?
They were spot on.
That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction.
You even managed the certain something on Mr. Sholmes' delivery.
Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please?
So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying?
Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene.
Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Miyu Iruma Jr.? If Miyu Iruma wasn't terrible and horny... But no, this is Hairlock Sholmes' 10-year-old roommate who absorbs his intelligence and turns him into a hot moron.
There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene.
A short, shifty-looking stooped man. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. Soseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all.
She does, it's true.
But it seems there were witnesses after all. And she just looks steampunk and anime. Anime steampunk. I've described many games. Chibi anime steampunk. That's her character.
Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear.
Ugh, Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time.
Of course it did. He's a great detective.
Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it?
Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime.
Oh.
Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system.
I suppose it is, but in that case it's not very great, is it? I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative.
Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun.
Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well.
Well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene.
Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, Mr. Natsume? Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there?
Yes, we know Inspector Gregson.
Goody, in that case. Give Gregsy this for me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know.
What is this? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Iris's postcard has been entered into the court record.
It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it?
Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try.
Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris.
It's very Japanese for the most capable character in this entire game to be a 10-year-old.
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime.
No, wait, I wanted to inspect the house. Oh, I should have done that first before talking to her. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Damn it. To be continued. I really should have inspected the entire house. I'm sure there was lots of great dialogue there. Oh well. Hopefully we'll get to go back sometime. If not, oops. Looks as though the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation.
Perfect, so let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible.
Yes, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at that silver tip Iris gave us for him. There's the man in question. Good old Gregson. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment?
I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. What's too busy to talk to a pair of full gabouts?
A vegan pizza option. What do they replace the cheese with? Is it just like a tomato-based pizza? They call it cheese pizza. Cheese pizza. Is it tofu? Is it tofu pizza? Melted tofu on bread?
What's too
With quotes around only the cheese. Hilarious.
What's too busy to talk to a pair of full gabouts, that's for sure.
We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson.
What? For me? From her ladyship?
What the fuck? She is 10. What is she doing? Her ladyship.
Give that here. At once. Come on, hand it over. That's for me.
Don't wait for me to give it to you, will you?
Cheese pizza is people.
What was that coin exactly?
It's a silver crown, obviously, but it's a lot more than that. It's an appearance fee, that's what it is.
An appearance fee?
Oh, I see. You mean...
That's right, for the adventures of Herlock Shelves. Her ladyship always offers me a little financial reward for featuring me, every time.
Yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly.
Of course, using my name without my say-so does make me a bit of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still.
I'm sorry, Inspector, that must be difficult for you.
Never you mind that. So, what do you want to know then, eh?
Sorry?
Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem. It says, well, obviously it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know?
Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, we'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings.
Ah, the little knife-wielding, mouse-stache Japanese fella. He lives in a right old hovel, just over there. Look. On the first floor of that house in the corner where that wreck of a bicycle's propped up.
That is nearby indeed.
If I remember rightly, landlord is a Mr. John Garrett. Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure you give a ladyship my regards, yeah? I mean it. You tell her that Gregson sends his very best wishes.
Don't worry, Inspector, we will.
Goodbye for now, then. And long live a ladyship.
Damn. This man idolizes Iris to an unhealthy degree. Well, at least he told us what we wanted to know before he left. Yes, so then, shall we go and see what we can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings? Definitely. Oh wait, we can go back to Sholmes' suite? I can inspect everything. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, let's go. We got so much work to do. What on earth is this huge over-the-top machine? That's the Great Analytoscope. It can analyze anything, really. Anything at all. That's absolutely incredible. It's one of Hurley's inventions. It took him a whole year. He said it was to help him with his investigations. What sort of things has he analyzed with it, do you know? Well, actually, he hasn't used it for anything yet. Oh. Why not? Apparently, on the evening he finally completed it, it suddenly occurred to him, I don't actually have anything I need to analyze. Oh dear. How about you, Runo? Do you have anything you'd like to analyze? The only thing that springs to mind is this machine itself. There's all sorts on these shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. It's all heaped up so high I can't help feeling that the whole lot is going to topple at any moment. I keep telling Hurley not to cram so much on those shelves. Good advice. He wanted to look something up in one of those books a while ago. But it was so tightly wedged in he couldn't get it out, so he went and bought a new copy instead. Oh, to be rich. Looks like that huge metal chest is being used as a table for tea and coffee. Seems very sturdy with an equally sturdy lock. Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't go around opening things. I always have to keep an eye on you, don't I? You're very mischievous. How did you come to that conclusion? Ooh, that chest! Contains some of my most valuable things. And that smile tells me you're not going to give us any clue about what they are. On the violin. Oh, there was. You're right. I've seen pictures of Western musical instruments like this. It's called a violin, isn't it? Of course it is. Mr. Sholmes is renowned for his violin playing. Oh, really? That's right. I just sort of slipped that in. You did what, Iris? I didn't really give it a lot of thought and just started adding it into the stories. Yes, Mr. Sholmes' exceptional violin playing has been mentioned a number of times. But the truth is, Hurley had barely touched a violin in his life up until that point. Oh. Of course, people started asking him to play for them after my stories were published, and he wasn't able to tell them that he didn't know how. What did he do? He went straight to the pawn shop and bought himself a very nice violin. And then he practiced. He practiced until his fingers very nearly dropped off. Must be why he's so highly strung. Before I knew it, he'd become rather good. The greatness of the great detective really shone with that experience, I think. It was a great deception, that's for sure. I do like this fireplace. It's one of the best things I've seen since we arrived in the country, in fact. Laying beside the fire and watching the flames flicker and dance in the grate. It's so relaxing. This woman just decides it's true. We can't relax, not when there are so many interesting things on the mantelpiece. Oh, it's just as it was described in the stories. It is? Yes, exactly. Inside that Persian slipper, for example. All my chocolates for 11s. and transfixed by that large jackknife is my shopping list for the market. Oh, it's not quite how I remember it being described in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
Poor Susato-san, she looks crushed.
A mystery shoe, a curious hammer, some mysterious dancing men, a bust of Napoleon. What an entrancing collection!
This is the first time in my life I've seen a lonely old shoe displayed as an ornament.
Oh, those are all mementos that Hurley has collected from his past cases.
Really? Even the bust?
Yes, that's right. When the mood takes him, he likes to throw it on the floor and smash it to dust.
The poor defenseless emperor. Mr. Sholmes destroys it?
Yes, and then he buys a new one.
You make it sound like he has the temperament of an insane sculptor.
Ah, how entrancingly bohemian of him.
Add everything in here. Ah, fuck. Wait, what am I doing? Wasn't there a... There we go. Oh, there she is.
Ah, that's my blackboard where I note down ideas.
Black Peter? What does that mean? That, damn. 10-year-old girl likes the Black Peters, huh? Good for her, I guess.
Oh, how intriguing. It must be the title of Iris's latest work. Oh my! I wonder what fantastic tale awaits us.
Susato-san looks like an angel, but I bet she's dreaming of the most grisly crime you could imagine.
It's a case that Hurley solved just recently. A black cat called Peter went missing in the neighborhood. Hurley tracked it down at the fishmonger's in the end. Well, I can't wait for the story to be published.
What a beautiful English tea set, and so neatly arranged.
It's a favorite pastime of mine, a cup of herbal tea in the afternoon. Tea made of herbs? That's right, I grow all sorts of herbs in the garden, so I can experiment with different blends. One moment, don't go away, I'll brew a pot of special blend I came up with earlier today.
She looks delighted. I only hope it's safe to drink. Doggy! What on earth is that big black lump over there? What are you talking about? Oh, the actual typewriter.
It's a machine that allows you to write on paper without needing a pen. And wizardly quickly, too.
Ooh, that sounds like it could be very useful for someone like me with terrible handwriting.
Wait, Iris, are all these stories from the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes? Yes, every one of them typed on this trusty machine. My goodness! How wonderful!
Susato-san looks like she's been shown into the Tokyo Imperial Palace Gardens. That's a charming little white shelf, and full of charming little bottles, too.
Those are poisons. Don't touch any of those. They might explode.
Explode?
Are they exotic chemicals? Do you use them for exciting experiments? Yes, indeed, and as Hurley always says, chemistry is an explosive science.
Sorry?
I agree, a single discovery can trigger an explosion of innovation all around the world.
Or perhaps he just meant it literally. Either way, mental note, do not touch any bottle that belongs to Iris. Iris is hard at work at her desk, look. She's tapping away on her typewriter so fast her fingers are a blur.
Sorry, I can't stop. I have to meet the deadline for the next issue.
Oh, I see. You must be very busy then.
Don't disturb her, Mr. Naruhodo.
I won't, so you can lower your arms now, please. Alright, I think that it just about covers this place. I feel guilty because of a mistake I made in an inspection this week that involved a potential explosion.
Alright, let's move to Mr. Natsume's lodgings and meet the man himself.
May I help you?
Ah, yes. Would this be the residence of Mr. John Garadeb?
Indeed it would, sir. Who may I say is calling?
My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Sosuke Natsume. I believe he takes lodgings here. We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client.
One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Garadeb.
Did you see that, Mr. Zato? That was a real-life English maid. I know. As I understand it, anyone of the standing in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day just keeps getting better. It certainly feels like we've really arrived now, doesn't it? We need to only meet a butler and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment.
Thank you for waiting. Mr. Garadeb will see you now. This way.
Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look-see first at everything you've got. You got a big cannon here. That's a full-size cannon. What's it doing here? This man looks like a moon. This man straight looks like a moon. Oh my, it's real. I thought it might be a replica.
That old thing. Bah, that's a little more than a toy.
Sorry?
The army was selling it off without a time, so I decided to give it a new home. Never known when the enemy might attack next. Jolly useful to have a cannon about the house.
Really? It isn't overkill?
Be prepared, I always say. You never know what this twisted world is going to throw at you next, boy.
Do you think there may be trouble brewing, Mr. Garadeb?
Always is. Take Joan here. Never fails to have a clean apron in reserve. Dries them over the barrel, you see. They dry very well on the cannon there, Joan tells me, which rather proves my point, I feel.
It's been reduced to a drying rack. No wonder the huge cannon looks like it's hanging its head in shame. I notice you have a pile of books here, Mr. Garadeb. Do you enjoy reading?
Ever experienced a London winter, boy? The nights are long. No better way to pass the time than in front of the fire with a jolly good book.
Oh, there's a copy of Rance magazine here, I see. No doubt Mr. Garadeb enjoys the adventures of Hairlock Sholmes, too. The great detective has a great many followers, it would seem. What else we got? Look at that enormous screen. It must have been put there deliberately, surely. Yes, it certainly seems like someone's trying to hide something from view. What could be behind it, I wonder? I'm going to have a very quick look. Just a little peek. Maybe let's not, Mrs. Otto. I think the maid is going to head us off with a cup of tea. That portrait of Mr. Garadeb is glaring at me, I swear. Have you noticed that all the little frames contain photographic prints of Mr. Garadeb as well? Yes, and there seems to be a statue of a lion on the mantelpiece as well.
Yes, seemed to come back from the local pawnbroker with that little trinket.
Seem to come back? What do you mean?
The chap who runs the place is a bally wizard. Went in to sell something and came out with that thing. In point of fact, now I think about it, I rather often find myself leaving the place with something I don't need.
The lion ornament certainly does seem surplus to requirements. Susan doesn't pull her punches, or her throws for that matter. That looks like a Medal of Honor, and it's showcased on a very grand banner. Yes, it's displayed with some pride, I would say, although it bothers me that it's not straight.
What? That old thing?
Sorry?
I should be glad to see the back of it, but the general would turn it in his grave if I disposed of it. The wall's the best place for it. Keeps the bally thing out of my way.
So it's just been polished to a shine by accident, I suppose? There appears to be an inscription on the medal itself. Look. Let me see. It says, for distinguished participation. Sounds like the kind of honors even I could be in line for.
Well, one doesn't like to blow one's own trumpet, but I was given that for my time in the army. Can't measure an officer by the number of medals to his name, of course. Common knowledge in military circles.
Are those mortar shells? They're enormous.
I hadn't noticed. What are they doing here?
Aye, those old things. Couple of little rounds I accidentally fired into the barracks during training, you know. Became a bit of colourful regiment folklore, that incident.
You mean you deliberately hunted out the spent shells?
Well, I wouldn't say deliberately exactly. They're only scrap iron after all. Usually just thrown away, I believe. But you never know when things might come in useful, do ya?
Useful for what exactly?
Yes, well. Joan here did manage to knock one of the ballet things on my foot the other day while she was dusting.
Oh no.
Hadn't shed a tear since 1896, 1869 before then, you know.
Maybe reconsider throwing them away? That uniform looks fairly ancient, doesn't it? It's clearly been well looked after, though.
That old thing. Bah! Not much better than rags, really.
Oh?
All that ceremonial garb in my retirement bash, you know. But I'm not one for dwelling on the past, me. Would have gladly thrown it out, but you know how it is. Anyway, it doesn't hurt to have the odd piece of memorabilia lying around, does it?
Oh, I see. Perhaps we should leave the past in the past. Oh, look! What a wonderful collection of cakes lined up on that gleaming silver cake stand. Lined up, it looks more like someone has half demolished them to me.
Afternoon tea is a type of indulgence, you know. It is quite the English way. It is Mr. Garradib's custom to take 2 cakes with this tea.
That sounds delightful. Oh, wait a minute, though. There are at least 10 cakes on this cake stand.
Well, naturally, and it would never do to waste the leftovers. So whatever Mr. Garradib doesn't eat, I say to myself, Joan, you shall have to tidy up.
How magnanimous of you. This window looks out of Briar Road where the young woman was attacked. Oh yes, I can make out the policeman on the far side of the road investigating the crime scene. The glass is rather murky, isn't it? You can't see very clearly. Does this thing open at all, I wonder?
I shouldn't underestimate the bitterness of a London winter, sir.
Sorry?
As soon as you open that window, the tea will freeze in the pot. No Londoner would go opening windows at dusk in the middle of the winter, I assure you.
It seems very unlikely that these two had seen anything of the incident, then. Old people, dude. That's how old people is. This old candle holder looks a little out of place here, wouldn't you say? Yes, you're right. It's clearly supposed to be gold, but it's almost completely black for some reason.
That old thing, yes. Just a cheap piece of ironmongery. Gimcrack, really.
Oh.
Used it when I was studying, don't you know? For my commission. I know it's old, hardly worth hanging on to, really. But, well, still has its uses sometimes.
Of course. Does everything in this room have some elaborate story behind it? They're memories, Mr. Naruhodo. Memories. Explain this. Look at this crockery on display here. It's rather unusual, isn't it? Oh my, a genuine London dresser. Isn't it delightful? Although the shells seem to be broken and the crockery is... oh dear, it's in pieces. It really is. The word cracked wouldn't do that Chinaware justice. I wonder. Perhaps the cannon was fired at it. Yes, probably something like that, but let's not delve too deeply here. Oh no. Oh. Stormy sunshine, that's... I don't know how I feel about that thing you've said.
Good day to you. John Garradib, at your service.
Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. He's a defense lawyer.
Do excuse me not getting up. Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Maiwon, don't you know? Had a medal for my pains, but had to withdraw from service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings.
So he's a retired soldier.
It's a hell of a job getting up and downstairs now, I tell you. Don't get out much, as you can imagine.
Yes, it's quite a climb up here to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. You really must take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo. Do you think so? Well, Mr. Garadeb, no doubt you are very courageous to earn yourself a medal.
It was nothing. The medal's just a folderol, really. Wouldn't like to offend the general, though, so I grudgingly displayed it on top of the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, Joan? Let these good people see it properly. Joan, fetch the... Ah! Dash it all, woman, be careful!
Oh, dearie me, I do beg your pardon, sir.
You jolly near took off the skin off my hands.
I shall be more careful, sir.
So anyway, there you have it. Living the quiet life now.
Yes, I see.
Now then, I hear you want to know about the chip lodging downstairs. Is that right?
Yes, we would be very grateful if you can answer some questions for us.
Only too pleased, naturally, especially if it helps to keep the PC here in Blighty. We've forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. So this case is very much in the public eye, as it were.
Oh, is it?
Even had some famous detective poking around, you know, in this old house, would you believe?
Yes, Mr. Hairlock Sholmes.
Could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea, all that detective business.
Oh, but you have a copy of Rant's magazine here, so...
Anyway, the chap investigating the foreigner's room as we speak.
So he's in Susuke-san's room.
It's a bally nuisance is what it is. The whole neighborhood's twitching its curtains now. I don't like all this fuss. It's jolly unsettling.
About Mr. Natsume then, Mr. Garadeb, please do tell us.
Ah yes, the Japanese chap. Only been lodging here for a week.
Oh, just 1 week? So he moved in very recently then.
I have... two lodges most of the time. One on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor room became available a week ago, you see there, but... Ah! Dash it all, Joe! Do be careful!
Oh my goodness, I'm terribly sorry, sir. If you want to know my opinion, I thought he was a shady sort from the moment I set eyes on him.
Oh? Why?
He seemed to have a most nervous disposition, always shaking and looking over his shoulder. Man, she ran across his sweat-soaked brow, if you ask me. I said to myself, Joan, that man is trouble. Sooner or later, he's going to do something untoward. And I'm rarely wrong about anything.
We won't be calling this maid as a witness, that's for sure. Was there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all?
Yes, oh yes, indeed there was.
And she's dying to tell us. It seems that the incident took place at around 5 in the evening. Did you happen to look out of the window at around that time?
The window?
Yes, we noticed that the window over there looks out over Briar Road. The incident took place on the pavement just on the far side of the street. Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby?
5 o'clock is dinner time in the Garadeb household, so I'm afraid I don't remember seeing anything. How about you, Joan?
No, sir, it would have been dusk outside already at that hour. And with the fog as well, I should think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road.
Oh, I see. Did you notice anything else out of the ordinary then?
Such as?
Anything at all, even if it seems unrelated.
Well...
Yes? What, was there something in that?
Well, it's nothing particularly significant, but around that sort of time in here, there... Ah! For the love of God, Joan, watch what you're doing!
Oh, dearie me, what have I done? I'm awfully sorry, sir.
Do be more careful, woman.
Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Narrow Hollow.
Oh, yes?
I have an exceedingly good memory, and as far as I remember, nothing of any significance took place here at that hour. Nothing at all.
Oh, really? Mr. Garadeb? The way you were talking before, it sounded rather like there might have been.
Oh, well, as I was saying, it was just a trifling matter, really. Nothing of... Ah! Joan, dash it all! What is the matter with you, woman?
Begging your pardon, sir. Nothing happened.
Yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down to a quiet, uneventful meal. Joe?
That's right, Mr. Garradeb.
What is the matter with these two? It sounds like something happened here in this room on the evening of the incident. But what? I wish I knew. Had you noticed anything else at all about your lodger, Mr. Natsume?
Oh my word, yes, the man was shadier than an orchard.
Could you elaborate?
Well, take the man's room. Absolutely stuffed full of books it is, more than anyone could ever read. And he never so much as passes the time of day with another living soul. I haven't seen a single visitor cell. He just trots off to that old bookshop every single day and comes back at 5 tonight to light the gauge fire. And the funny little man is up long past the time everyone else in the house has gone to bed too.
Oh, I see.
The gentleman on the ground floor goes to bed at around 9 each night. But I've never known that Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning.
Ah. Damn. Can relate, unfortunately. Could you clarify something, I wonder?
What, pray?
How do you know so much about Mr. Natsume's routine?
Oh.
I had understood that neither of the lodgers live on this floor of the house. Is that correct?
That's right, yes, they're both below us, on the first floor on the street level.
Then, how is it that you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise times that they come back in the evening, for example, even the times they go to bed.
Ah! Good grief, Joe, do be more careful, woman!
Oh my goodness, sir, I'm terribly sorry, sir.
Something doesn't add up here. Could you tell us which floor Mr. Natsume's room is on?
Why, certainly, just below us on the first floor.
And Mr. Sholmes is investigating there even as we speak?
Yes, told me Nat's his name, asked him to look into the matter, so I gave him the key.
Mr. Natsume has engaged Mr. Sholmes' services. That's a blatant lie. Would it be alright if we also had a look around? I'm Mr. Natsume's room, I mean.
Don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs.
Who knows if we'll find anything that could help us with the case, but we have to try. We know all the clues we can get our hands on, shall we? Yes, and while we're there, we can speak with Mr. Sholmes again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more. Alright. Oh god. Oh, it's Kitty! We aren't lying about the books, though. What? Just look at this place. And smell it. It's so musty in here. I suppose it's the mountains of old books that are responsible for that. I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark. It's so dark in here, too. Is that the windows over there? Well, it was the window, I think, yes. Once upon a time. For some reason, it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsume lives. By the way, I haven't spotted Mr. Sholmes anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according to what Mr. Garradeb told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere investigating. Kitty. Bye, cat. Where go? Where'd cat go? Oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps he's looking after all the books while his master is away. I don't know about that. He disappeared into that pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor Mike, was it? Do they even have that sort of cat here in Great Britain? Perhaps Mr. Natsume brought the little creature with him from Japan. That made me feel homesick now. Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days. What do we got to look at? Oh, look, it's a beckoning cat from home. It's a bit big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Natsume didn't bring that Maneki Neko all the way from Japan with him. I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. You are forgetting the enormous Daruma doll that you brought in your luggage. Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I wanted a lucky charm. Well, I imagine that Mr. Natsume wanted the same, and his cat was sure to beckon good luck to him. It's not doing a very good job so far, is it? You mustn't say such things. I didn't say a word! Why are my eyes such a giveaway? Look at all those books stacked up there. They almost reach the ceiling. They're all works of English literature, and they all smell so musty. With this volume of books to hand, you'd never be short of reading material, would you? No, what a dreamy idea. A bad dream, maybe. For me, at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the books at the bottom of the pile now will ever be read again. So reading, it is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us. I certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. That desk seems to be wedged in a crevasse between the mountains of books on either side. So as Mr. Natsume would sit there and read while stroking his cat. But surrounded on all sides by these towering old tomes, surely he dreamt of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a receipt from a second-hand bookshop. Your books. No, my books! Oh yes, Mr. Natsume's name is on it. And look, the date of the purchase, 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. That's the day of the incident. 4:45 p.m. That's gonna be a piece of evidence. Put that in the court record, please. That's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books. Yes, thank you. Could you even call this a window? I think so. It was a window at one time, after all. Although, all that remains is a frame around some bricks now. So really, it's just a wall then, isn't it? But why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that? I'm afraid I have no idea. Perhaps Mr. Natsume painted the brick design in on a fit of whimsy. That's alarmingly feasible. Anyway, whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation in here makes the place very oppressive. It does. I imagine being cooped up in a room like this would be extremely trying. Oh, found him. I found the guy. I found who we're looking for, everybody. Look, Mr. Naruhodo! Aha! There he is! Where did he appear from? He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope he won't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes!
Ah, you too! Good day! Now, let me see. Where was it that we met?
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, we were together on the SS Buria.
Ah, yes, of course, the Buria. And let me see. What happened on that voyage?
It was Kazuma Asogi. He died, tragically. He tripped on a cat, but you were there, but you were a great help to us.
Ah, yes, but of course, the case of Mr. Asogi. It was the one with the snake, wasn't it?
Oh. Well, you seem to remember something of it at least. What an honor to be remembered vaguely by the great Herlock Sholmes. This is Mr.
Oh, no, my dear madam, hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior powers of recollection. Your names are safely recorded in my brain attic. Miss Naruhodo. And Mr. Susato.
Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes.
I lose the first round. In truth, I had hoped to invite you both to my Baker Street suite the day we arrived in London. But some Scotland Yarders ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to a crime scene. It was an entirely trivial case, of course. I solved the matter in no more than 30 minutes.
So they apprehended Saseki-san in that short an amount of time?
I'm afraid the pursuance of a new case has dulled my recollection of my past involvements a little.
A little?
It is a mistake to think that one's brain attic has elastic walls and can distend it to any extent. I do my best to forget useless facts, lest they should elbow out the useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of inimitable wisdom, you know, from an adventure entitled A Study in Scarlet.
Please, there's no need to quote yourself.
I don't always remember my pearls of wisdom, but fortunately my associate pens them beautifully.
He means Iris, I suppose. Mr. Shalms, we have some extremely important questions to ask you about the trivial case you just mentioned.
Goodness, what an earnest expression! My dear madam, I should be only too pleased, and this murky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case.
Alright, bud, let's do it. We know this to be the lodgings of a Japanese foreign student by the name of Sosuke Natsume. It seems that you assisted in his arrest, Mr. Shalms, for the stabbing of a young woman outside here on Briar Road.
Natsume. Yes, I believe it was a name rather along those lines.
But Mr. Natsume denies it. Was it really justifiable to arrest him on so little?
I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean.
What? I can't believe he was looking Susato-san squarely in the eye while feigning ignorance.
I assure you, I am not merely feigning ignorance.
Fucking reading brains again. He's literally just saying it out loud.
It appears, though, the pair of you are under some misapprehension.
Oh? How?
I assure you I have no recollection of accusing your astute compatriot of the crime.
That doesn't make a sense.
The good detective of Scotland Yard made the following request of me, and I quote verbatim. We need you to ascertain the identity and whereabouts of a man seen fleeing the crime scene.
Ah, a man seen fleeing.
There were a number of books scattered on the pavement at the scene. From the bookplates, I was quickly able to determine the bookshop from where they had been purchased. On speaking with the proprietor, I was immediately led to this address. Elementary, wouldn't you say? I believe there is a receipt around somewhere from the establishment in question.
So you don't think Mr. Natsume is the culprit, then?
That I could not tell you. But it was aggravating my faculties, hence why I returned here. However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books, I found myself quite lost in bibliophily. Bibliophily. Blah. Do not be deceived into believing that I'm a man of leisure. No, no, no.
Oh dear.
Ah, tell me. Have you encountered the landlord of these lodgings?
Yes, Mr. Garadeb, a retired military man. It was the first time I'd ever met a soldier from the great British institution that is the services. And it was the first time I'd ever met a maid from the great British institution that is service. I didn't think it was that funny.
I do apologize. As you may well be aware, many households in London employ a maid.
Yes, I read as much as my Great Britain primer.
And so conversely, whether or not a household employs a maid has come to betoken the social standing of those dwelling therein.
Betoken their social standing? Sorry?
But simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single maid are considered middle class. Those who do not are beneath that. In the upper echelons of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family.
Goodness, how extraordinary.
As you can appreciate, for those on the precarious boundary between the middle and lower class, being able to afford just one maid is of the first importance. I had no idea. And it is for precisely that reason that I found great stimulation in the situation upstairs. Specifically in the retired army veteran, Mr. John Garadeb.
Oh?
Affable as he is, the fellow is hiding something. Whether or not it imposes on the circumstances of this case, I am yet unable to ascertain.
I'm thoroughly lost on what he means to say.
This room is thoroughly suffocating for the soul, my dear fellow. I assure you, any man whose lot it is to dwell in a place such as this will stab somebody sooner or later.
Mr. Natsume has stabbed no one.
Ah, but sooner or later, as I said.
Lynx, maybe they're saying, maybe they're including the maids. I don't know. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right? To some degree. Maybe they're including the maids and stuff in the middle class just because they live with them. I don't know. Well, not necessarily. There could be a 1 maid to, like, 4-person ratio, right? If you have a family. I don't know. I don't believe that's the issue here. About this dark little room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any idea?
No window.
Well, I mean, I can clearly see that there is a window of sorts. But it's been completely blocked with bricks.
Ah, I see. The answer to that question is quite simple. Window tax.
Window tax? What is that? Surely, not a tax on windows.
Precisely that.
Oh my goodness!
Until relatively recently, a tax was levied on households in this country by the number of their windows. Those of lesser means, having inherited a sizable and costly family home, perhaps rapidly closed windows up, while the rich opened windows here, there, and everywhere, in an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money.
How awful and unjust, forcing people to live in rooms devoid of light.
Indeed, disease was rife as a result. So, some 40 years ago, or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains, as you can see, in squalid lodgings such as these, for example.
I suppose Mr. Natsume's stipend for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps.
It would appear so. I've done a little digging, and discovered that these lodgings were offered at an extraordinarily low price.
Because the room is so awful, I should think.
Apparently, Mr. Natsume only moved in here about 1 week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by the shabby nature of the accommodation.
Oh?
Still, that is of little relevance here, a matter not worthy of further attention.
Are you sure? I'm curious now.
Well, I believe I've told you all I can now.
Thank you, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Was it not your intention to become a practitioner of law?
You remembered that, did you?
Will you perhaps be offering your services in this very matter, I wonder? To the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsume, was it?
I'm not sure.
Not sure? On what grounds?
Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday.
Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on an ambition realized, and so promptly, too.
The thing is, it's really made me question things. Am I right to believe in my clients? To trust in their innocence?
Yes, trust.
Mr. Sholmes. Mr. Natsume didn't do it, did he?
My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea.
Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate?
Ah, yes, that was indeed my initial intention. But there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them.
Oh, I see.
Nevertheless, there are 2 facts that I can state quite unequivocally. The man who fled the scene of the crime 2 days ago was the Japanese occupant of this room, and there are witnesses who swear to have seen the same man commit the crime. That is all I can say. Ah, and one more thing.
Oh? What is it, Mr. Sholmes? Tell us.
I cannot say with any certainty whether or not it is of relevance to the case, but I am quite sure that the retired army man who owns this property is hiding something.
Mr. Garrideb is? Mr. Sholmes said as much before, actually, didn't he?
Anyway, at present, that is really all that plays on my mind in relation to this case.
Mr. Naruhodo, as yet our investigations have uncovered nothing that could help establish Mr. Natsume's innocence. No, you're right. Perhaps it's time we probed a little deeper into Mr. Garrideb's secret.
Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be of any relevance or not. But I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruhodo.
A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his book in the corner of the room. Excuse me, Mr. Sholmes.
Yes, so true. To be or not to be. That is indeed the question, Mr. Naruhodo.
To be or not to be brushed off, that is the question, and the answer is all too clear. Let's leave Mr. Sholmes in peace, shall we?
Okay.
That cat's just fucking dipped. Alright, let's head back to the Gyarados.
Ah, you Paragon. Tell me, was the detective chap, I forget his name, still hard at work down there?
Mr. Hairlock Sholmes?
Ah, yes, rings a vague bell. All that detective business isn't really my thing, I'm afraid.
Well, Mr. Sholmes is in his element down there.
Jolly good show. Another cup of tea, if you please, Joan. Now then, why don't you tell me what— Ah! For the umpteenth time, women, will you watch what you're bolly well doing?
I shall be serving dinner shortly, sir.
Ah, yes, of course. Frightfully rude of me, but I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to take your leave if you'd be so kind.
Oh, yes, of course. We are deeply grateful for all your assistance.
Not at all, not at all. Don't get much chance to talk with young foreigners like yourselves. It's been a pleasure. Best of luck and all that. Perhaps you could see yourselves out.
According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Gyarados is hiding something. And since no other avenues of investigation seem to open to us in the morning, we should do some digging. Okay. Oh, wait, that's not what I want to do. I mean, I'd love to talk about what the fuck is behind here. This motherfucker. Every fucking time. Every fucking time. That's Sholmes for you. What's he doing over there? Mr. Sholmes!
Aha! We meet again, my dear fellows! Good gracious! When did you sneak in here? Hairlock Sholmes, sir, at your service.
Whatever were you doing over by the window?
I am given to watching the evening sky as the sun sets, madam. Yet sadly cheerful as the room downstairs undoubtedly is, it lacks an aperture for such observation. So I took the liberty of borrowing a small corner of space by the window up here. Well...
Keeping an eye to one's windows at dusk is the prudent thing to do in London, I'm gathering.
Ah, and one other thing, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, me?
I thought perhaps you might be in need of a certain great detective's great mind.
Oh, yeah, it's time for the logic and reasoning extraordinaire. He's not talking about that, is he? I didn't expect to be going through that again so soon. Let's do it. Do you mean Mr. Sholmes?
There is a mighty secret in this modest room. My eyes even see the most trivial of trifles. I take it you're prepared, Mr. Naruhodo.
I think so.
There is just time enough for one of my greatly admired great deductions. Let us conclude the matter before dark.
Hell yes, let's go. Let's do it.
Mr. Gyarados, though it would seem you're a military man of considerably distinguished service, your standing as a landlord is most certainly not what one might call first rate. I'm afraid, sir, that it is all too clear to me. There are two conclusions I've been able to draw by the careful observation of your living arrangements. I beg your pardon. The first is that even as we speak, you are concealing the presence of a ferocious beast in your care. And the second is that as a result of the beast's violent rampage, you have lost something very dear to you.
Mr. Naruhodo, look! The old man's broken out in a cold sweat. Unbelievably, it seems Mr. Sholmes' conclusions are both spot on.
How could you possibly?
How could I possibly know? You mean to inquire? The answer couldn't be simpler, sir, for in the dense jungle of logic and reasoning, I am the king of beasts.
Oh, well.
And I know only too well that wild beasts are not easily tamed. So, shall we begin? Once again, Herlock Sholmes is proud to present Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Let's fucking go! The game is afoot, baby! Topic 1. Nature of the Beast. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a fearsome beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. Thus we are faced with the question, what form might this beast take? Ah, for a man with a military breeding, your eyes are uncomfortably candid.
Aye.
Your furtive glance, Mr. Garrideb, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that lion statue. Yes, though an army man, you appear unimposing at best. A fact that has fueled your admiration for the mighty lion, the king of the beasts.
What is this piffle, I ask you?
In the end, your admiration became so great, in fact, that you had a living, breathing specimen shipped from India, which you tried to keep in this very house. Hello, you've been subscribed to Monthly Mime Minifacts. Did you know that Mr. Mime's guard swap doesn't affect special defense under any circumstances? I didn't know that. That's wild. That's crazy talk. Man, now I know more about Mime. Thank you, Lasden, for the Mime fact and the sub.
What?
Yet living with such a wild beast proved more difficult than you had imagined.
The chilling traces of wild rampage
Are still very much in evidence.
well.
Yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to?
Madam?
Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me with one glance in your direction.
It is?
Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. For protruding from it is a handbill advertising a circus show.
Ah.
Yes, you sought to dispose of this terrifying lion, Mr. Garrideb, at Batty Circus, a traveling show currently sojourning in a nearby park. I've observed the tents. You sold the savage lion, sir, to the circus troupe.
I most certainly did not.
I believe I've made my point. The fearsome beast which ran amok in this room was an Indian lion, and a simple visit to the circus now will reveal the lion prancing jubilantly through a ring of fire.
A rampaging Asiatic lion. Good job, Holmes. You fucking did it in one. Totally correct. Definitely not complete bullshit.
Now, Mr. Garrideb, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress this loss has caused you is veritably tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders. The pain you feel is being revealed by that of your supporting arm. Amidst a fit of tears, you let your beloved beast go. The strain of losing something so dear to you is clearly visible in your visage.
Nonsense, man. I simply...
But what, we must now ask ourselves, is the true cause of this pain? And we need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, it is this pile of bills that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Every envelope contains another demand for payment. For cartloads of meat, potatoes, wheat, and tea. Indeed, feeding your beloved has had a devastating impact. Yeah, you fucking feed tea and potatoes to a lion. Yup, Sholmes, got it in two, baby. Indeed, feeding your beloved has blah blah blah. And so you have had no choice but to let it go.
Yes, well,
Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack.
Unimaginable?
The aftermath of which can be clearly seen by observing the carpet there. A very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, dearie me.
What could have caused such a destructive outburst?
Oh.
This time, madam, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. There is no creature more dangerous on this earth than a beast with an unsatiated appetite. Was it or was it not said by a certain noblewoman, if they have no bread, let them eat cake? Food is at the heart of all tragedy, in fact.
Whatever do you mean?
Having tired of the taste of cake, the beast began to stalk its next prey. I'm sure I need not spell out the nature of this final act of destruction carried out by the beast. There is only one logical conclusion. Worked into a frenzy by hunger, the lion attacked and ate the carpet. The teeth marks in the carpet are a perfect match with those of a lion I once saw in India. Conclusion. Carpet gnawed on by the starving lion.
Oh my god, Sholmes, you fucking idiot, I love you.
Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this beastly puzzle. Ah! What is the matter with you, Joan? You're pouring scalding hot tea all over me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Garradub. I'm afraid I didn't notice.
My deductions can be startlingly sharp. It stands to reason that your cup runneth over. Indeed, my revelations can make people spill tears at times, too.
Oh.
Mr. Sholmes, sorry to butt in again, but could I make an observation? Why, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it, again? Well, your deductions just now, do you really think a lion could have fit inside a room of this size? Indeed, it is the only explanation for the facts. The terrifying truth all too often lies beneath the realms of common sense. But wouldn't it be an idea to consider what lies inside the realms of common sense as well? But if an uncaged lion had run amok in this very room, surely Mr. Garradub and his maid would have been hurt, or worse. Ah, that's where you are stuck. No doubt the former military man held his own against the beast using that large cannon.
They used the cannon to fight off the lion. Oh, Sholmes. I thought you said that they saw the lion of the circus.
And what about the food? Meat and potatoes are one thing, but I don't believe I have ever heard of a lion that drinks tea. Ah, my dear Miss Susanto, it occurs to me with some regularity that irrespective of race and breeding, whenever anyone lands on Great British soil, they are infused with a highly appropriate taste for afternoon tea. Oh, what a glorious notion. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, it's your turn to shine again. I had a feeling that was coming. A slight massage, that's all Mr. Sholmes' deductions need. You can do it. Excellent! I've been waiting for my trusty partner in deduction to step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. We don't even know yet whether or not this is going to help with Mr. Natsume's case. Still, uncovering the truth is always worthwhile, whatever the motivation. At least, that's what I want to believe. Let us start again. From the beginning of a Herlock Sholmes' logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction.
Hold it, Mr. Sholmes!
It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a fearsome beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. Thus we are faced with the question, what form might this beast take? Ah, for a man with a military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Aye. Your furtive glance, Mr. Garradub, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that lion statue. I really didn't see the lion thing coming. No, but if you observe Mr. Gardebb's reaction, it rather seems as though some beast did indeed run amok in this room. Yes, something with a very fierce nature. But it couldn't have been a lion transported from India. So what was it then? We must follow Mr. Gardebb's gaze. That will lead us to the true answer. What's this photograph? It appears to be from Mr. Gardebb's wedding. He looks very happy, doesn't he? He does, but you can't make out his bride. No, how unfortunate. Something seems to have struck the glass directly over the woman's face. I wonder what happened. Probably best not to delve too deeply there. Yeah, the maid. Yeah, maid is maid. I'm thinking maid is the wife, and she did some damage. They had a fight.
Take that!
The true nature of the beast that has run rampant in here is revealed by that newlywed bride. Precisely, Mr. Naruhodo. No other explanation could possibly fit. Yes, this framed print pictures your wife, Mr. Gardebb. Yeah, Cabellia, very good point. If she pretends to be a maid, they look like they're middle class, even if they're not middle class. Very good point. And while we lament the fact that her face is obscured, we can still make out her mighty arms and note the considerable horsepower they must contain. He just got fucking... He got disappeared, dude. Sholmes fucking killed Naruhodo there. Oh, indeed. Surely any woman of such powerful constitution would be honored to be described as a beast. Honored might be stretching a point. Too late! I fucking love this bit. The fact remains that the beast which so clearly savaged this room was your wife, Mr. Gardebb. Oh! The chilling traces of a wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well, yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to? Madam? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me with one glance in your direction. It is? Yep, saw the giant slap mark too. Yep, address Poggett. The poor fragile defenseless one is beside herself. Well, I don't know about fragile. Oh dear. Anyway, Mr. Sholmes is quite right. There's no sign of Miss Gardebb anywhere. But it seems there may be a clue as to her whereabouts. A clue that this maid is trying to hide. I wonder where Mr. Gardebb's wife could be. Is she wearing a ring? There it is. There's our ring.
Take that!
Your wedding ring gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. Oh! Indeed it does! That flowery band gleaming on your finger gives you away! For it is identical to the one shown on the hand of Mr. Gardebb's bride in this photographic print. In other words, you are no ordinary household maid. No. You are Mr. Gardebb's lucky bride. You are Miss Gardebb herself. Oh my! What?
Well, jolly fine detecting, sir. As you rightly surmised, this is the wife, yes, my Joan. Rather let herself go, you might say, but she was a ballycorker-back. Ah!
It would appear that you don't live in the most comfortable of circumstances.
After all, you are a retired army man, yet you are in the business of renting out rooms.
I would assume, therefore, that you have insufficient means to employ a maid. Would that be correct?
It's not right, I tell you. Well, I was second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment. A man with has his pride, don't you know? By golly, it's a sorry thing when a chap can't even afford to have a single maid in his employ.
Yes, here in London, one is rather judged. A household cannot be considered worthy of society if it employs no staff at all. Though it is my considered opinion, such concerns about appearances are a folly. You mean Mr. Garrideb has his wife work as his maid? Precisely. Am I right, Mr. Garrideb?
Only in company, obviously. But listen here. This must remain a secret. Tip-top secret, please!
It was not a rampaging Asiatic lion, it was the raging wife of Mr. Garrideb.
Solved! Time for round 2.
The aftermath.
You think she not on the carpet? Now, Mr. Garrideb. It is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress this loss has caused you verily tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel by that supporting arm. Nah, buddy. It's that slap mark. Mr. Sholmes is quite something. He's still calling Mr. Garrideb's wife a beast. Yes, as a woman, that feels rather uncomfortable. But Miss Garrideb is sitting beside her husband as we speak. In other words, he hasn't lost his beloved at all, has he? Oh, how true. So perhaps that supporting arm seems to be prepping up his head. It has some other significance then. According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garrideb's pain is tangible, though. What could that pose of his really signify?
Take that!
Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that slapped cheek. And of course, the deliverer of that impressive mark on your cheek that refuses to fade. Was you, Madame Joan Garrideb?
Well, yes.
You have been desperate to hide the slap mark on your cheek, sir. Ah!
How the blazes? How did you work that out, man?
Nothing escapes the notice of one trained in the art of observation, my dear fellow. That's why you haven't looked directly at us even once. To keep your other side from view.
Well,
Now, let us proceed to the next conundrum. Why were you subjected to such a violent slap? In other words, we must ask ourselves what caused Madame Garrideb to fly into a rage. And we need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer.
The fucking the electricity bill is gonna come in and you're gonna be like, what the fuck did you do with the lights, dude? All the fuses got blown.
Did Mr. Sholmes say the bills are all for line fodder? Yes, but now we've established that the line never existed. Which can only mean that the thing responsible for gobbling up all that food was Mr. Garrideb's wife. Mr. Naruhodo, she's a person, not a thing! Yeah, well, she's also a person who gave her husband a mighty slapper on the face. One so hard it left a perfect hand mark, in fact. Yes, why would a woman want to hit her husband with such force, I wonder? I'd love to know the answer to that question. Ooh, fancy note with a little, oh really? What causes the most pain in any man? There's a little kissy mark on there. I thought that was it. Never mind. The answer, of course, is dropping your bookmark and losing your place in the book you're reading. Or worse, dropping someone else's bookmark and getting a slap for it. What a spectacularly contrived logic led you to this mindless conclusion? Oh, well, it's supposed to be a logic and reasoning spectacular, so I thought I'd contribute to the show. Oh, yeah, we have to inspect it, you're right.
This is my show, Mr. Naruhodo. Kindly perform any peculiar experiments on your own stage.
Sorry. We already know what the cause of his plan is. The slap across the cheek, which left that bright red mark. Garrett and his wife share a deep and loving bond, perhaps, but it's said that the stronger people's feelings are, the more fiercely they react to betrayal. So you know a lot about the ways of the heart, Mr. Naruhodo. I read it in a popular novel that I borrowed from Cousin. So we're looking for a reason why she would have felt betrayed. Okay. Yep, you're right. I mean, we gotta inspect that. Can we inspect that? Yes. I keep forgetting you can investigate things. Ah, someone must be reading a book at the moment. There's a bookmark here. Look, Mr. Garrett is clearly an avid reader. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think this is a bookmark. Oh no, so it isn't. It's a note written in a woman's hand. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. And look next to the signature here. Lip marks, made with lipstick. Oh, what a passionate and romantic gesture. Don't get any ideas, Suzato-san. Oh dear, I'm sorry. So this bookmark is actually a love note then. There we go.
Take that!
Yes, it is this love note that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Passionate indeed. Perhaps the sender of this note, a certain Miss Mary, is the fly in the ointment here?
She hit him again. Damn.
But I don't know the ballet woman.
You don't know her.
That note wasn't written to me. It was just in the book. I don't know how it got there.
It was just in there, you say?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Ah!
A likely story.
Now listen here, John, old thing. I explained at the time. I bought the book at the second-hand place, and that note must have already been in there.
So the previous owner of the book was using the note as a bookmark, you mean?
That's right. That's what I've been trying to say. Ah!
A likely story. For heaven's sake, woman, look at the name. It's written in James.
My name, in case you'd forgotten, is John. Ah!
A likely story.
Are you questioning my name now?
And there we have it. Arouse the suspicions of the female heart, and you unleash a beast with the most ferocious bite. Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack.
Unimaginable.
The aftermath of which can be clearly seen by observing the carpet here. She got so angry, she started gnawing at the carpet.
Oh, dearie me.
What could have caused such a destructive outburst? This time, madam, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. But surely Miss Garrett didn't eat the carpet.
No, of course not.
There doesn't seem to be any doubt, by Blinks, that the state of disarray in this room is a result of her wild temper. No, that's true. So this is the last part of Mr. Shum's deduction that we need to fix. We need only to follow Mr. Garrett's gaze, and that will tell us the real answer. Alright, let's see what we can see. Yes! This looks like a very old candlestick, doesn't it? The base looks too small. Surely it's very unstable. It looks to me like even the slightest knock would make it topple over. Oh dear, that would be dangerous. Wait, take a closer look at this. There's one candle missing. It's on the floor. Yes, I didn't notice that before. Why is that, I wonder? Why is one candle of the three missing from its holder? The carpet here has been ripped to shreds. Yes, and according to Mr. Shum's deduction, the tears match those made by an Indian lion's teeth exactly. Oh, look here. What is it? If you look closely at the edge, you can see scorch marks. Oh yes, so you can. In that case, perhaps the carpet wasn't eaten in the normal sense at all. Let's rethink with that in mind. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the candlestick. Most illuminating, my dear fellow, and of course the only possible way out of this logical labyrinth. Yes, the remnants of the ferocious attack in which the carpet was devoured are clearly visible. Indeed they are. The scorch marks at the edge clearly give the truth away.
Scorch marks?
It would appear as though this room was the scene of a little marital altercation. Miss Garrideb's mighty arm muscles left an impression not only on her husband's face, but on the entire room. The force of her strike caused a candle to fall from the holder. And in seconds, the carpet was alight, and the whole corner of the room in flames.
Yes,
For the most ferocious beast in the world is neither a violent lion nor a vengeful woman, but fire. And in his room, that ferocious beast bared its claws and ran amok. Eloquently put, my dear fellow, so you see there is but one conclusion here. After the sparks of marital discord flew, the room was a scene of a fire. Oh, he's standing up.
Mr. Sholmes, sir, I salute you!
Oh, uh-oh. Solved. Deduction complete. We done it again, boys. Love to see it.
It's these dashed long winter nights, you know. Nothing to do but read in front of the fire.
Luckily, there's a jolly good second-hand bookshop just round the corner. Buy all the old novels there. And in the pages of one particular novel, you discovered some rather illicit material. For which your wife admonished you harshly, it seems.
Don't know about admonished. Demolished might be rather closer to the mark. And beast is most certainly an apt description.
Here we go again. And the carpet? Was that destroyed by fire when a candle fell on the floor?
Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. I was caught between the old stick's rage and the raging flames.
You paint a torrid picture, sir. One that would have been most entertaining. That's sympathy for you.
Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. We've had to hide the mess behind that screen for the time being.
Over here, Mr. Garrideb? Thank you for the uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Shit. Okay, nobody click on that person's, Don't anybody click on that person's profile. That is a known IP tracker bot. If you click on their profile, they steal your IP, they DDoS you, and they hate raid you. So, shit. Uh-oh. Okay, well they're... Okay. We will see how this goes, I suppose. Hopefully nothing happens. Just be very sure not to actually click on the thing.
Had all my favorite novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke.
Gosh.
Then the wife started hurling things at me.
What a terrible sight it must have been.
There was I, back up against the window, and a heavy enemy fire! Incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. Worst of it is I lost my favorite, book called The Lion's Pride.
The Lion's Pride. Ah, yes, your notorious love of big cats coming through again.
I assure you the title didn't influence my choice in the slightest.
So the poor man really did lose something dear to him as a result of the ferocious beast's rampage. Mr. Sholmes' deductions turned out to be correct once again. It can only be described as a great British wonder.
I tell you, it was total carnage. Flames everywhere and the old stickin' full fettle.
Out of interest, what time of day was that?
Not sure I can remember. It was 2 days ago now. Let's see. Around 5 o'clock, I think.
Perfect timing. It's at exactly the same time as a terrifying incident was unfolding outside your window on the street below.
Ever more terrifying on the inside, I can assure you. The old blighty could have been flattened outside my window at that moment, and I wouldn't have noticed a dashed thing.
Oh, really? Mr. Sholmes?
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, what can I do for you?
Well, I think we got to the bottom of Mr. Garrett's situation now, but what does it have to do with Mr. Natsume's circumstances?
I can't help you there, I'm afraid.
What?
My dear fellow, if you recall, I did say as much from the outset.
I warned you that although I knew the retired army man to be hiding something,
I could not be sure whether his secret would prove to be of relevance or not.
I just knew you were going to say that.
Now, Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't lose heart. Bear in mind that all things fall into one of only two categories, those relevant to the case and those are not.
That makes no sense to me.
Well, no matter. It is of far greater importance that you make up your mind now.
Sorry?
Visiting hours at the prison will soon be over.
Oh no, is it that time already? If we're to accept Mr. Natsume's case, we have an official paperwork to attend to. So that's it. No more time to think.
Perhaps you'd like to betake yourselves to bidding us farewell now. I must prepare supper for Mr. Garrett.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you both very much for your time. So Seki-san will be waiting for us, and I'm gonna have to give him an answer. Can we... Is there anything over here that we can look at? What a miserable sight. Oh dear, but at least the whole room wasn't engulfed in flames.
I suppose so. But my whole collection went up in smoke, you know. All those novels I adored so much.
Well, Joan, whose fault is that?
Not mine, that's for sure.
Well, whoever's may or may not be to blame, I'm quite sure that you can bury some new books to replace them. Buy some new books to replace them, can't you?
New old books? Belly nonsense!
Does sound like a contradiction in terms, but then these two are full of contradictions. Hee that's couples free, Mr. Naruhodo, or so I've been led to believe. Alrighty. It's time, Mr. Naruhodo. We must hurry back to the prison. Yes, I know. Let's hail a care... Oh. What's the matter? It looks like something's going on over there in front of the Garrett's house. Hmm? What the fuck?
I know thee not, old man. Fall to thy prayers.
Oh, you're calling an old man, you rum-looking niminy-piminy?
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Who's this Horatio fella, eh? What are you on about?
Excuse me.
What, who are you now?
I'm sorry, it just looked as though there might be some problem here. And my associate here, Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, is a lawyer, you see.
A lawyer? What?
If I could be of any assistance, I'd be happy to help. I'm from Japan, but I have studied English law.
Psst. Fine, I'll be on my way for today. Will you mark my words? This ain't over yet.
Get thee to a nunnery.
Do I look like a bloomin' nun here?
What in the fuck? I do hope you're not injured.
Oh, fair Eastern maiden, thou art so gentle. Thank you.
What was all that about?
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
I'm not Horatio either. Forgive the inquiry, sir, but are you a lodger here in the Garrett residence?
Oh, fair Eastern maiden, thou art so right. Yes, I do dwell in this humble abode.
Mr. Garrett mentioned that he had another lodger, didn't he? This must be the man. Do you happen to know the other lodger who lives on the first floor?
Ah, yes, a gentleman named Natsumi. A more worthy opponent to my battle of words than ever could there be.
Sorry, battle did you say?
Who is the stronger Hamlet or Macbeth? Mr. Natsumi and I sparred long into the night.
I see. I don't fully understand, but it seems Mr. Natsumi and this gentleman are acquaintances at least.
So fair maiden, so good gentleman, I can tarry here no longer. Fare thee well.
I didn't really understand him, but I think he's returned to his room. Seems he's unaware of what's happened to Mr. Natsumi, so he can't really help us. Soseki-san and that man as lodgers, the Garrett house is certainly full of eccentrics. Anyway, I'll go and find a carriage. Yes, I'm sure Mr. Natsumi is eagerly awaiting our return. Let's hope we can get to the prison before visiting hours are over.
It's you! You're here! You came! Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire! I can't believe you came back! I'm so touched!
We are so sorry to have kept you waiting, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, no! Think nothing of it! Relax! If I were a cat, I would purr with pleasure at the company of such fine compatriots. Noble, nurturing, never failing Nipponese!
Yes, that user was a IP tracking bot that sends hate raids to people, yes. Oh, I quite agree. There is nothing more reassuring than the familiarity of one's native land. On the other hand... Oh. It is through friendship transcending international borders that one truly appreciates the fact. Such is my belief, at least.
It's you! The miserable, rotten spy! Airlock Sholmes!
Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing here? I have no intention of doing anything per se, save observing, of course. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? Well, having encountered some curious reading material in that gloomful room, and having unmasked the secret identity of that eccentric pair, I decided I should drop in on my way home to see how our divested friend is faring.
Gloomful room!
At least your accommodation here offers a window, my dear fellow. In that sense, it is the superior option. Anyway, I must commend you on your taste in books. My day has been a delight and cost me not a penny.
Ah! You! How dare you, Airlock Sholmes! I've had it. I'm through. I'm at the end of my rope. I should never have gone in. It was a terrible mistake. Haunted by spirits in those accursed lodgings. No doubt my luck will be cursed in tomorrow's trial as well. My whole life has been damned!
Don't look at me like that, Susato. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? He mentioned that once before, didn't he? That his lodgings were cursed, I mean. And there is much truth in Mr. Mustache's words. What? Cursed is a wholly appropriate description, I would say, for the man's lodgings, and indeed for tomorrow's trial. Well, what's that supposed to mean? Mr. Natsumi, what did you mean by what you said just now? About the trial tomorrow being cursed?
Oh, no, why are you looking so grave? You're making me nervous. I was just getting carried away, that's all. I didn't mean anything by it.
Oh, I see. That's really agitated him.
You don't mean the trial really is cursed somehow?
Are you referring to the prosecutor? The Reaper of the Bailey?
The Reaper? Oh no, what do you mean? Please tell me. Surmise it succinctly in 16 salient words.
No defendant has ever survived a trial in which the Reaper stands for the prosecution. Ever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. He did it. Ryunosuke is a fucking genius. He fucking did it in 16.
Oh my goodness, can it really be true? That was 16 words exactly!
Yesterday, Mr. Naruhodo successfully defended someone against the Reaper. But then, after the trial was over, the defendant passed away in unusual circumstances. Mr. McGill did.
What?
Ah, I am impressed, Miss Susato. You have an eye for detail. Actually, the Lord Chief Justice told us.
Mr. Sholmes, surely it can't be that having failed to have the accused convicted.
Lord Van Zeeks killed the man himself? Oh no, he couldn't have, surely.
You have some wonderful notions.
Sorry?
The man isn't a mass murderer, he's a court prosecutor, my dear fellow.
Oh, yes. Why, of course he is.
Ah, of course he is! Then why are you trying to scare me?
It could be said, however, that the real truth about the man is even more terrifying than your hypothesis. What on earth do you mean by that? Van Zeeks is quite an exceptional man. However, in London courts of law, exceptional does not equate to winning every case without exception.
Ah, that's good.
Saseki-san looks he's gonna cry tears of joy. As you are no doubt aware, in a British criminal trial there is both a judge and a jury. The judge officiates based on the letter of the law, whilst the jury offers public opinion and common sense. It is an excellent system whereby the defendant's guilt is considered from several points of view. However, public opinion in particular is somewhat easily manipulated. Right. Criminals, and corrupt lawyers for that matter, can use it to their advantage. By any means at their disposal, contriving evidence, calling impostors as witnesses, and so on. By such underhand means, those who would want are able to sway the jury. Which means that even in the light of irrefutable evidence, the prosecution can fail. But it means the wrong verdict can be passed. And sadly is from time to time, my dear madam. It is simply the reality of the situation. And that's right, and that's alright.
Holmes' smart moment. Iris, quick, take it away.
True. However, those indicted by Lord Von Zeeks cannot escape justice. Their fate is sealed. Oh my. Though the adjudication may see them leave the courtroom with their freedom, within months they all disappear. It is most striking.
Disappear? But how?
Ah, by all manner of misfortunes, sir. Perhaps they are trampled under a passing carriage. Perhaps they fall into the Thames and drown. Perhaps they are suddenly overcome by a raging fever, or perhaps attacked by a highwayman.
Oh no, no, no!
All examples of the reality of events here in London, I'm afraid, Mr. Naruhodo.
I knew it. I'm a dead dodo, done for, doomed!
When you said accursed lodgings before, you were referring to your room at Mr. Garda's house, I presume? Do you mean to say you believe the place is cursed?
It's been a year now since I came to Great Britain. I'd only been in London a week before I started to notice strange feelings in myself.
That didn't take long then.
Everywhere I looked, there were foreign faces staring at me, laughing behind my back. I was sure people were talking about me. I started to become nervous about going outside. They were always staring at me, all the time, from dawn to dusk. So I shut myself away in my room, but even that didn't help. The fear wouldn't go away.
You must have been very lonely, having been away from your homeland for such a long time.
I've had to move a number of times, most recently to that room on Briar Road, a week ago now.
Yes, why did you choose there? It seems a little inconvenient.
The rent is cheap. I have so little money, it appealed to me straight away. Of course, I asked why it was so affordable. The landlord just simpered and said, "The room is cursed." Oops! He quickly tried to cover his mistake, but it was too late, so I told him, "If you have something to say, then say it, but if not, don't mention it in the first place."
Yes, well said.
But it was true. It was all true.
You mean the room really is cursed then?
Ever since I moved into that windowless hellhole, my sleep has been plagued with nightmares. I awake feeling as though I'm being choked to death. In my waking hours, people are stabbed in front of me as I walk down the street. I'm branded a killer, thrown in prison. Nobody wants to know me. I'm surrounded by scary, sinister spirits. If only there was someone, just one person on my side. Can no one find it in his or her heart to believe in me? Really,
Oh, jeez. To believe. Yes, to believe. Mr. Sholmes?
Ah, me, Mr. Naruhodo. Pray, what can I do for you?
It's about the case on the SS Buria, if you recall.
The Buria. Ah, that case. The one with the snake.
Well, yes. At that time, I was the suspect, but you believed in me and listened to my side of the story. And you helped, even though he's the one that put you in handcuffs, and you helped us investigate.
Did I? Interesting.
What I want to know is, why? Why did you believe me?
I see, yes, you mean... because you were a grimly dressed, shady Eastern fellow found with the victim in a locked room.
Well, if you like, yes. That's true.
I'm a little surprised that the answer requires explanation, my dear fellow.
It's quite simple, really. You said I didn't do it. But I could have been lying. Surely you must have had your doubts. You must have suspected me a little.
I think perhaps you have misunderstood. I neither recall believing in you, nor in that which you were telling me.
What?
You see, the only things I believe in are those I choose to believe in.
What? What do you mean, Mr. Sholmes?
I make up my own mind about what is to be believed and what is not. If I should like to believe in something, I do. The circumstances can hang as far as I'm concerned.
But I could have betrayed your trust. In that case, I should have made an elementary error of judgment, nothing more.
Betrayal of trust is an overused excuse, in my opinion.
Meaning?
Whether or not one should trust another is, in the final analysis, down to oneself. It is a matter of whether or not one can trust oneself.
Yes, he's right. He's right, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
Whether or not I can believe myself.
A defense lawyer is only as good as the faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself.
You were so right, Kazuma.
Well, my dear fellows, it is time we were leaving, I believe.
Already?
Visiting hours are over. The guard will be here shortly to escort us out. There is a restaurant near here that serves excellent trout. Would you care to join me?
Oh dear, there's never enough time, is there? Come on, just say it. Stop being coy about it, Naruhodo. Just say you'll defend him. Or, Mr. Natsume, if you'd like, in the trial tomorrow, I'd be happy to represent you.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
As I said, I only experienced a British courtroom for the first time yesterday, and although the man I was representing was found not guilty, I lost sight of something crucial.
Something crucial?
What to believe in. The defendant, justice, or the truth. How to believe, even. But I think I finally worked it out. I've decided I must believe in myself above all else, to trust my instincts.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. And my instincts are telling me that you, Mr. Natsume, are innocent of this crime. And it's imperative that we prove that in court.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire.
I will fight for your innocence until the bitter end with every weapon available to me. So I hope you'll permit me to represent you tomorrow.
As I said when we first met, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who will listen to me in my native tongue.
Of course, Mr. Natsume. It would be fair to say, Mr. Naruhodo, that your mind was in many ways made up from the outset. You merely needed the events of today to fully realize it. Yes, I think you're right about that. It's been a roundabout journey, but I got there in the end. Miss Susato? Yes? Would you be willing to stand by my side tomorrow and help me in court? Absolutely. As I said this morning, you may consider me your personal judicial assistant. The shocking events of yesterday's trial still weigh heavily on my mind, but it's time to stop looking backwards. Cosmo believed in me, and Mr. Sholmes believes in me now too. So it's time. Time that I learn to believe in myself. Soseki-san has no one. He's all alone, so it's my job to help him, to fight his corner. Tomorrow, in the courtroom, with all the strength I can muster. To be continued. Alright, I honestly think that is going to do it tonight, folks. I was hoping we could get through the whole case tonight, but we had quite a long investigation section that, I mean, it is now 10 p.m. We're talking a minimum of another 2 hours, which is going to make, what, like a 5-hour stream? I don't know if I can keep going. I don't know if I can go. I think we want to do the trial next week. Oh. I don't know if I can keep going for that much longer. As you can tell from my yawning, I'm already getting pretty tired. And the voice is going, you know how it is. So, yeah, the trial part 1. We're going to have at least 2 parts of the trial. We're looking at potentially another 2 to 3 hours. So I think that is going to be it for tonight in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thanks everyone for joining. Next week we will be handling the trial and figuring out who actually stabbed that lady and why. Maybe. I don't know. They haven't been super good about giving motive. Goodbye, Larius. Pleasure having you. Have a good one. And yeah, I mean, we could stream it tomorrow, but I don't know. I have a pretty busy weekend ahead of me. So yes, next Friday we will be back finishing up this case. I really want to keep playing this game. I really love this game, but I do know my own limits, and my own limits are cannot do 6-hour streams that frequently. We did that with Danganronpa, but I don't know if we can do that with this right now. So anyways, have a good night, everyone. As usual, pleasure streaming for y'all, and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.